Hello, hello. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, and the number 3. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Alright. So, we left off last time with Kitsukai, and we were doing the wonderful artwork of just getting some of the basics down, really getting the head space done for our character, for my personal persona. And so the next step, after having now made and completed our references for Kitsukai, is to now actually get into a full body plan. Now this is what's going to take some time, um, both in body articulation, posing, proportions, so on and so forth. Now the best thing about creating a character from scratch is that you can essentially um, do whatever you want. I mean, as far as proportions are concerned. So, of course, we got plenty of page to work with. We don't really have to resize anything, I don't think, at this point in time. What we are going to do, however, to kind of test this out is, I like using size 4, using size 5. Um, and so we're going to create a new layer here because we don't have any layers to work on right now. And as we have done in previous artworks, of course, we have created folders for everything that we have done. So there's a folder separate for this right here, including the signature, and there's a separate folder for this right cha. So now we can even prove this by clicking off and on. And inside that folder, of course, retains all of the layers and any other additional folders that are related to doing each of these headpieces. And so, yes, we're good to go there. So now we have a new layer. So talking about creating a full body, obviously the beginner thing to do, and even to myself, right? This is advice to myself, even though I'm not going to follow it, is to have references and kind of figure out what kind of pose do you want. Do you want dynamic or static? And what I'm thinking through my own head right now is kind of a combination of both. A dynamically static pose where we're not like flat, like, in the sense of like a stick figure where the arms are out to the sides and the legs are out here. Like, that's a static figure. And then we don't want to also do anything like this where, we're doing something, uh, you know, dynamic or whatever, like this person is jumping from here to here, whatever the case may be. Whatever, doing some weird leapfrog things like, yeah. We also don't want to do anything like this, and we don't want to do anything like this. So what is the happy median between these two? Well, the happy median is something along the lines of like, um, well, here, this would be a little better. So like, when you make a spine, right? This is something complete. This we're gonna learn a lot about doing full body artwork in this session here. So there's actually a lot of sections and articulation points to a full body. I'm using a very basic stick figure, so when I draw like a straight line like this, and then I choose like where my shoulders are and stuff like this cannot actually represent a dynamically static figure. We have to have articulation points. And like I made the really truly dynamic thing, right? When I did this, right? Uh, I don't really need all these articulation points too, because when you do a dynamic pose, um, even though we've added technically joints here, here, and here, and this one kind of remained the same, although there could be a joint there, whatever. Um, this is still like very simplified. A static dynamic form is actually a little harder to achieve, harder to do, because you don't want to go one way or the other. So let's just start drawing so I can talk about this. So we have a neck, right? And we don't care right now particularly about proportion. We will, of course, focus on proportion, and proportion is, of course, important to anything and everything we do. But as we had seen, like, in famous artwork such as like One Piece, I know I'm kind of sidetracking again, you'll have characters that like have a huge chest and tiny little legs and then like giant arms and stuff. So proportion, it all depends on the application. So as of right now, we just want to generally make a layout of a static dynamic pose. So one thing about a static dynamic pose is we have shoulders, right? And so if you just move your shoulders up and down, one shoulder can be higher than the other, right? So you can lift up your left shoulder, lift up your right shoulder. And usually when you put your hand on your hip or something like that, you are lifting one shoulder. You also have to imagine that the shoulders are kind of like a seesaw. So if you lift one shoulder, the other shoulder tends to want to go down to compensate. So we're just going to draw an angled line. Again, we do not care at this point in time about how long this line is compared to this line. Nothing. We just want to get the basics down. So we drew an angled line relative to the straight line that is the neck. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to want to kind of decide, since this line is up, right, compared to this one. This means that the hip is kind of in the same boat. Now, granted, of course, people can articulate themselves in any direction that they want. But let's just go ahead and push up your left shoulder. Okay. So what way does your hip feel more comfortable when you push up your left shoulder? It's to the right, the opposite side. So when we draw our spine, we want to go to that side that we think that the hip is going to want to gravitate towards, because that's what your spine is doing. It's lifting this line. You got to pretend that something is lifting. If the spine is straight, right, this already doesn't look good. This already doesn't look correct when we draw this spine still straight, because your spine isn't straight. It never will be, never is. In a static pose, it's not even straight. And if we draw a line this way, right, well, you can see that the spine is lifting this line up in that direction. If we go straight, the line is like this. Again, it doesn't look right. And if the spine is going this way, the line is like this. Kind of like pretending like, like a pendulum on a clock, right? Where when something swings, when the line moves, something moves with it. So if my left shoulder, when I'm sitting in my chair and I put it up, some people are different, but for me, my right hip wants to move. So in order to articulate that, I have to make my spine lift this side, right? Okay. And again, we don't really care about much of anything. We're just trying to get a basic layout. And I'm just trying to teach at this point. I'm not really doing any of this specific to my character. This is just a learning moment. And so now we have this and opposites. Just like when you think about walking, right? Do you walk with your right arm and your right foot in the same time? No, you alternate. Your left hand is moving forward when your right is going, and so on and so forth. Like, you have an alternating body plan. So nothing moves in the same or in tandem with each other. So keeping this in mind while you are doing static figures and stuff like that is going to help you out a lot. And if you just think about your own joints and just move your own joints around while you're sitting or standing or whatever, pretty much you are your own reference when this happens. So my left arm is on my hip. And essentially, this is kind of like, let's see here. I'm actually moving myself in my chair just to kind of get an idea, right? So we can, okay. Let's and so let's bring this arm out and this arm here. See, look at how dynamic that is, and you already can see what's happening, right? You can just with those two lines. There's my elbow. Okay. And then this one here just goes straight down. It's a hand on hip pose. It's a hand on hip. And now we're going to take this a little further, right? So since this leg is up further, and then this one, let's see here. We can do multiple things. Obviously, the more static thing would be to just simply have this leg go down. Of course, trying to be as proportional as possible, right? And what I was trying to get at here is like, you can put your leg placements however you want. But when you dip down one of your, so this is technically your hip is down. And so when you dip down something, you're actually relaxing this leg, and then this one is more straight because you're putting your weight down, and so your body has to bend that. Granted, this is a little extreme, mind you. This is extreme, but it has to bend a body part in order to compensate. But nonetheless, this is more, like I said, this is very basic stuff. This is just things to think about. We're going to get into more detail. I just wanted to explain what a static dynamic pose is. This isn't overly, this isn't over the top. We're not trying to do some crazy finger stuff. Like the hand is just going to be right here on the hip, and this other hand is just going to be drooped off to the side. And then this foot is pointing this way, and maybe this foot is pointed this way. Head is facing this way. And so, I mean, there you go. Granted, this is a very high hips. Like, we need to bring this down a little bit, but we'll get into that more. But needless to say, even doing something this rudimentary will assist you in coming up with like poses and things a lot easier, especially when you start thinking about attachments and moving and then having weight at the end of each of these attachments, and then just again feeling out your own body and just moving around your shoulders and stuff and whatnot, and seeing how your neck turns side to side and looking up, looking down, all those things, right? Because again, like the head, how many lines did we put to get the head? Okay, so like we could, as you see here, basically they're staring off this way, right? And if we did something like this, now they're staring off this way. And then if we did something like this, they're staring more off to the ground. So, since our heads are essentially a sphere, we can go wherever we want. We have 360 no scope, 360 no scope on wherever we want this to go. The same kind of happens when you work with joints like this. Now, granted, when you start having muscle attachment points and things, you are limited in this. This is not a complete 360 for the most part, but it can be. Again, it just depends on how you how realistic you want to go with your artwork. Notice how I said this is not a have-to thing. You can do whatever you want. You can make your character bend their fucking arm like over here and do some crazy shit. Like, we've seen plenty of cartoons like that, right? I mean, it's just, what do you want to portray and how do you want to portray it? So that all being said, we're just going to simply delete this layer and start a new one. Okay, so now we're fresh. So, what are we going to do? What kind of pose are we going to put Kitsukai in? Essentially, we're going to do exactly what I just trained. which is kind of just get a rough idea. Think about some poses. Just start, close your eyes or whatever you need to do to start thinking about like how do I want Kitsukai to be portrayed. Now I prefer 3/4 view, so we are going to work on a 3/4 view kind of thing, kind of pose. And again, it's going to be static, dynamic, so it's nothing over the top. But also, we're not just going to have the arms like a Leonardo da Vinci, human thing. Like we want a little bit of movement, give a little bit of life to Kitsukai. So while I'm talking, I'm thinking about a pose. He's a samurai. He's a proud warrior. So we're thinking about how warriors in general, soldiers and things like that, present themselves. And typically, they're very erect in general. So, like, you have your spine, pretty much everything is straight. There's not a whole lot of lean or room for bad posture. Posture is a very important thing. So, if we were to do something dynamic, statically dynamic, we could do something along the lines of doing pretty much a straight line. Now, granted, this would be actually a forward-facing pose. This would be best forward-facing, and you'll see here in a second. So there's our line of sight. So he's just staring straight at you. Shoulders are straight. And you'll see here in a minute why this is probably the most basic dynamic pose you could do. Everything is straight. The hands meet behind. Knees. And again, you can kind of see what kind of pose this is. Essentially, he's got his hands behind his back, and he's in like an at-ease position. This is a very soldier pose. I don't think as far as samurai is concerned, but, this would be just a very basic soldier pose to do. Arms behind the back, and so on, right? So we could do something like that. I think this is a little too soldiery. I don't think, maybe we want Kitsukai to be a little bit more relaxed. Again, like I told you, this is going to be something that takes a long time. Character creation, I think people don't give enough credit to, especially when people start doing full body stuff, because this does not just pop into your head and be like, oh yes, this is it. Oh yeah, and then you just start going at it. No, this takes proper planning. Yeah, see, I was gonna say that definitely more military pose than warrior. Absolutely. So, and hey, Ebony, nice to have you in. Thanks for joining. Pleasure to have you this morning or evening, depending on where you're at. And so, we could do something like that. We could if we really wanted to, because again, as a samurai, there is some proper posture and things like that, depending on the setting that they find themselves in. Another kind of posture that we could put in, because we're also trying to show off. I guess that's a good way to show off the body proportions. And so if we start tucking limbs behind each other, we start to kind of lose that emphasis. But we could do something. Let's see here. Now, granted, I'm not using any references right now. I could make this a lot easier myself if I were to just look up online and just type in, like, I don't know, samurai standing or samurai warrior or Japanese warrior standing or posing or whatever, all that stuff. And I could instantly be like, oh, that's a cool pose. I want to do that. And I might end up doing that. But I'm just helping anybody who wants to really think for themselves and really try to get into the deep imagination of themselves and thinking and stuff, which is hard to do. It is hard to do. Again, like, no one comes over to the art tablet and like, yeah, I need to do this. And they know exactly what to do. If they do, they're a 1% artist. That's the 1%ers. They're crazy good at what they do anyways, so we already know that they're going to create awesome artwork. Ebony says, no problem. I like supporting the smaller channels. Thank you. Again, thank you. Always enjoy company. Always enjoy a good conversation. And we're just here to have some fun, right? Even if I get nothing accomplished today, doesn't matter. We're just here for some fun and relaxation. And so another thought process is kind of like a hmm a kind of like a sidestep. Let's see here. Again, this is really rough. So, and like I said, I want to kind of work with like a 3/4 view. Let's do something a little bigger here. Woo! Woohoo! Way bigger. And we're just going to have him view off. Let's see. No, let's do hoop. And then do we want to go a little... No. We kind of want to do straight. Obviously, there's going to be a curve here. But we're not trying to do this very seriously right now. We just want an idea. And so then we have the neck. And shoulder-wise, if I'm thinking, I'm digging deep into my brain how this would look. This would be a more advanced shoulder. Normally, I would not do like a bend in the line like this, but this would be kind of like a drop shoulder. And what you're actually doing is you're kind of actually already setting up the traps for the neck connection points and stuff like that, or for muscle tissue and things. But by doing this line, usually you want to start with just a straight line. But the reason why I'm imagining this, let's see here. Ebony says, just gotta ask. This meant to be an OC or something else. This is an OC. Kitsukai is, so I am jumping into the furry world as a furry for the very first time. I have been captivated by furries. I am interested. The culture is interesting. Everything is interesting about it. I like the idea of not being a human. Being a human sucks. We all can agree with that. And so what better way to go against the grain than to be something completely inhuman, an anthropomorph of some sort. And anthropomorphism, even before furrydom, has always been something I enjoy because, again, I get to be something else that I would never, ever be or could be. And so not only have I jumped into the realm of furry and wanted to create my first fursona and OC for this instance as the question has been presented, but I also want to be something that I wouldn't be in real life either, which would be a samurai warrior. Right? I mean, yes, I could learn Japanese swordsmanship, of which I have. Funnily enough, I have learned some sword techniques and things like that because I am very interested in Japanese culture. But obviously, I'm not going to be walking outside with a samurai, with a katana or anything of that nature. That's just not how society works these days. Needless to say, though. So yeah, this is a complete new adventure for me, and something that, if people join on the journey, awesome. Glad to have you along. And so I dug really deep onto wondering what kind of character, if I were to pick something, absolutely, this is the way I wanted to go. Something unique. I think Kitsukai is going to be unique, and something that is obviously personally to me. Like, this doesn't matter anybody's personal opinion. This is me. Ebony says, "Trust me, you won't regret getting into the community. Just don't go to the dark side. Don't go to the dark side of the furry force." I have heard about the dark side, and I've seen things. I do a lot of research. Obviously, all communities have their pluses and minuses, and it just is what it is. But for the most part, I think the welcoming side of the furrydom and furries in general is pretty awesome. I haven't had any negative interaction with anybody that is in the furry space, and all I can say is I hope that continues, and here we are. Continue on with the pose. So we have our shoulders, and the reason being is because I kind of want to do like a let's see, I kind of lost my train of thought on this, but that's fine. We're still going to do like kind of an erect posture here. I'm not sure where exactly the spine is going to fall in line here. I might draw a pseudo chest. And chests are, kind of like this V shape, this weird triangle, a very loose, round triangle. And of course, this is just me, mind you. You can draw a chest however you want. You can do a box if you want. It don't matter. It don't matter. This is just how I do it. The reason why I do more circular things is because we can apply these lines, right? And these lines, of course, are basically where is this pointed? Is it pointed this way more, which is more of like a front-facing perspective? That's what I'm looking for is perspective. Is the chest puffed out like this, right? So therefore the pectorals are kind of up like this, and then the abs go down like this type deal. I guess this is more of like a, yeah, I'm a strong boy, haha. um, so let's see, let's continue. Let's do more of a relaxed, just trying to be relaxed. Everything just flows down, right? Everything's just like a little waterfall, it just flows down. We could have like one arm going off to the side here. Again, this is just thinking. Ebony says, this is definitely more creative and thought out than mine. Well, I haven't seen anything that you've done yet, but if you and this is to anybody, of course, and any viewers that don't want to talk or just happen to be in the chat room, you can always send me messages, and especially like artwork. I love seeing other people's artwork. If you have an Instagram or something of that nature, not so much Facebook, but mostly Instagram, just send me a message and say, hey, check out my gallery or something like that. I like looking at other people's artwork. I think as far as artists are concerned, we all like to share in that because we just get ideas from other people, right? So yeah, and to Ebony, if you want to share artwork and stuff like that, or let me see your gallery, even if it's not on Instagram, like, hey, check me out on DeviantArt or whatever, hit me up on my Instagram. My Instagram is on Twitch, and that makes it easy. Makes it super easy. So let's see here. Arm is out. Now I kind of drew the bicep a little long there, but that's fine. Again, we're just kind of getting ideas right now. Elbow. And then maybe like, I don't know, this could be a little somber. This would be held out a little bit more. Ooh, that's an interesting. This is a good idea. So actually, I'm going to raise the elbow up just a little bit. Raise that elbow up. And then have the forearm go down here. Okay, so now he's like looking at something on his arm. So maybe there's like a little bird, little birdie here. On his elbow or something like that. And this is another thing too. When you're starting to draw things, inspiration ideas just start flowing because then you'll want to change stuff. The first idea that I had, just to share that, so let's drop that arm back down a little bit, was just kind of like having a very relaxed, like letting something go. Like he has his arm out like this, and then there's like maybe like pedals or something like that, leaving his hand. Again, this is dynamically static, or static dynamic, whatever which way you want to go here. So the posture isn't overly dynamic. Like again, we're not doing crazy finger postures or punches or anything like that. We're not drawing like movement lines like, whoa, we're going crazy over here. We're not doing any of that. We're just having a relaxed pose, but it's also not boring at the same time. And so I kind of like this idea. This was my original idea. And then this hand over here just kind of falls down a little bit. And the best part is that we can always move things, right? When we take our lasso tool, instead of redoing this line, because that means we'd have to go back when we're hitting, just as the example here, okay, use examples when we're training. We had to hit that back button all the way there. So we just lost all of that art just to move this line. We don't really want to do that. And so when we take the lasso tool and we circle what we want, and then we can scale and rotate, I can move this wherever I want. Again, this is just a rough draft. We don't care if we're separating lines and stuff like that. The major part here is I want to move this line. So maybe I want this arm to be down a little bit more, down more to the side, so more like this. That looks a little better for me. Ebony says, I don't actually do art. I was just saying if you saw me in my first suit, which is actually the PFP, I look generic. I gotcha. I understand. Let's see here. I'm going to click on you real quick here. Let's see, can I do this? I don't know if I can do this or not. Did I mess something up here? No. Where did I take you? There you are. Oh, I can't even. Oh, okay. Interesting. So I can't actually move you out of the stream chat bubble. Interesting. Okay. I'm learning new things here. So if I bring over the chat, there's a chat log. Hi, Ebony. And then I do this. And then we do this. This is what we do? No. But yeah. Oh, I love. And by the way, compliment time. This is very cute from what I can see. Absolutely adorable. So that's a wonderful fursuit. Fantastic. And so let's bring back up our artwork here. Let's do the things. There we are. We're back. So yeah, when you want to move something, don't. This is why we do all of this. This is why we plan out our art this way. This is why we do what we do and why we use the tools that we have, because we want to make life easy for ourselves, right? We don't want to do things difficult. We just want to enjoy our lives and just do things easy. So instead of going backwards, just use your lasso tool, circle what you want to move, and just simply move it. That's all there is to it. So again, keeping that warrior like we talked about, they are very erect individuals. They have a good posture, so they're not going to have their hips really dip or do weird things. Like, we're not going to have some weird angles of whatever. Right? That's not what we're after here. So, like I said, we kind of made a pseudo chest, right? And with that, we obviously have a stomach area. So just draw a nice little circle there at the tip. It doesn't have to be centered or anything like that. We don't also have to do any of this line work or anything like the perspectives, because this is a true sphere, right? A true sphere means like anything that's on this can rotate on this sphere, which is also including the hips too. So the hips can rotate completely on that sphere. This doesn't go anywhere. It's kind of like, imagine like a ball bearing, just like a bearing, or like your fidget spinner or something like that. The middle of this does not move. So it does not matter what lines you draw on this thing. It's always going to look the same. The same goes for any of these joints here. You don't draw any of these perspective lines on any of the joints, because it's unnecessary. They won't move. There's nothing about them. The only thing that moves is the muscle and the actual appendage itself. So let's go back a few steps. And so as we see here, the spine is good posture, excellent posture. And we're just going to go ahead and Evangelico, you, my friend, you little bot, you're banned. See you later. Gotta love Boney. Yeah. I love the promo bots. They, I guess I'm never truly alone, am I? I'm never truly alone with the bots around. At least they find me attractive enough to be like, hey, you can get some free viewers right here. Just click on me. And so now, as far as the hip is concerned, we have the chest rotation here. And if we think about the human body, I'm sitting in my chair and I'm twisting. There isn't a whole lot of twist that you can do. Like, your hip can't be facing this way. And, I mean, I guess you could. I mean, there's some flexible people out there. Let's I cannot deny this fact. But warriors are typically very stiff individuals. Some of them are flexible. It depends on how much fantasy you want to bring into it. But this is semi-realistic, right? Um, so ultimately, what I like to do is kind of draw a little oval. We can draw a line. It doesn't really matter. Since this is more three-dimensional, draw a little oval. And then again, another one of the loose triangle, something smaller though. And then, of course, the hip is pointed in this direction. So there you go. Ebony says, assuming you've had art lessons at some point, or is it self-taught or something else? Most of my life, my artwork has been self-taught. I'm as far as like actual like art training and stuff like that, it's been self-researched. So like I've given myself my own motivation to look at other people and how they design their characters and how they design their stuff. So in the essence, you could say I'm fully self-taught because again, it was my choice in actually seeking to learn these things. It wasn't like I was taking a class or something like that and I was forced to do it. But at the same time, I don't take full credit because I have gathered many ideas from watching many other people. But it also doesn't hurt that art is a passion of some sort. And so yes, I've definitely taken hints and tips in here because especially things that you're stuck on. This is something aspiring artists should always learn: is to be humble. I don't know everything, and no artist actually knows everything except for 1%ers. They're just geniuses in the arts, and that's just is what it is. But for most of us, 99% of us, we need help. And if you are not willing to humble yourself and say, you know what, I can't get this. I don't know what to do here. And seek that research. Do the research. Find out what you need to do to accomplish the thing that you want to do. If you don't have that drive, then you're never going to go forward because as everything you do as an artist, when you start repeating and doing the same thing over and over and over again, you then become proficient at it and you don't need those references anymore. Like as I stated, I'm doing this completely reference free. I'm just using my mind and my knowledge on things that I have learned and over time. And here's the thing, like I said before, and you may not have been viewing me at this point, Ebony, but I said ultimately I probably am going to find a reference at some point to ensure the accuracy of what I want to do here. So it's not ruled out completely that I'm going to be doing this, referencelessness. Referenceless. Okay, so as we notice, we made a fairly big figure. And again, what we'll do, since everything so far is on just one layer, right? Just circle the whole thing. Get your selection or scale and rotate, and just squish it down. Just go to the squishy, squishy. Squishy, squishy, squishy. Because legs are actually most of your body. This right here, the funny thing about legs, all of this that's happening up there, your legs are also essentially the same size. Your legs account for a lot. And so if I don't give myself this necessary space for legs, even if I do come up a little shorter than normal or whatever, yeah, but just as a fair notice, from your head to your hip, right? So this right here, this is also, and I could just actually take this, edit, copy, edit, paste, right? So now I have two exact lines. There you go. So that's how big your legs are going to be. Leave space for legs. Leave space for legs. All right, so continuing on. So obviously the hips have joints. And typically also your shoulders, you could also use a whole box here. Your shoulders and hips line up for the most part. So if we draw a straight-ish line, down, And we kind of do have a little bit of perspective difference, so this is actually fine that this seems longer than this side because we are turned this way slightly. So this side is going to be more squished than this side. So we're going to have a circle here and a circle here. Pretty easy, right? And we can get rid of these lines and just use our eyeballs. That's fine. Circle here, circle there. You can draw a line there to help you. Whatever you need to do to help you structure your stuff. Some of these times when I make dolls like this is essentially what it is, a wireframe mannequin. There's going to be things everywhere because I'm just trying to figure it out, right? And I would have already had this done by now. But again, I think it's beneficial to talk about these things because some people, maybe Ebony, is interested in doing artwork. And if I just go full force on this and just draw this out in like 2 minutes or less than a minute, I don't think that's a good teaching experience. Or I don't think everybody's going to get enough out of it. I mean, once we get going here, I won't be probably talking too much because I'm focused on things. But nonetheless, I like explaining where I'm coming from. I also think that's a big disservice on a lot of artists, streamer artists or YouTube artists. They just go balls to the wall and then they do speed paints while trying to explain something, and I don't think that's fair to the viewer, especially for someone who's trying to learn art. And they're just like, what the hell? How did you do that? So I drew two circles, and again they're approximately the same width as the shoulders. And now we're going to kind of get an idea of how he is standing. Really, there's not a whole lot to do here. It is, he's pretty much just got a normal gait. And then, and like we said here, we got like approximately the same length here. So a thing to help you is to then bring this line down, right? And so midway through the line here, you got your knee. There you go, a little easy hint. Ebony says, probably not happening. I am happy with getting commissioned art of myself. And that's perfectly fine. Absolutely. Absolutely. Some people are just inclined for artwork. Some people love watching it. Like, that's how I grew up. I grew up with watching television series like Mark Kistler's Imagination Station, Pappy's Land, Bob Ross. Bob Ross, I'm sure, is pretty much everybody knows Bob Ross. And there's some other shows that kind of introduced art, but it wasn't like, art specific. And let's see here. So now that we know, like, we're kind of facing off this way, right? So your legs and your feet are going to be also in this direction. So if we have this plane of looking off this way, let's see here. Yeah, something like that, off this way. So the knee is also kind of going to face a little bit this way as well. We can just kind of draw little hints and tips like, okay, here's where my kneecap is. And then most legs bend a little bit at the knees. And then you have your feet. Very basic representation. That's all you need. Ebony says, yeah, I like watching it, but I never do it. And then also relax fit. And then the hands, when you're sitting, of course, you can touch your knee pretty easy when you're sitting. But when you're standing, your hands are typically like right around in here. Again, we're not too really concerned about exact proportions. But as we see, this is actually not too bad. This is a dynamic, static form. And so this is like the basic layout. Now, one big decision that we have here with Kitsukai, and I'm going to draw both. I'm going to draw both because I'm not sure myself what I want to do. We have digigrade and plantigrade. And obviously Ebony knows exactly what I'm talking about. Digigrade is where you have typical animal features, right? So like this is actually the knee here, and so there's your haunch, and then you have your leg, and then your foot down there, right? So that's your digigrade-esque leg. And then, of course, you have your normal plantigrade, which is this right here, a very human-like form. So I don't know which way I want to go with Kitsukai just yet. I'm also trying to think of my personal self, right? Because I'm the one that's going to be in the fursuit. And so when I represent myself in my fursuit and how I feel, I also need to represent that with Kitsukai and all of the artwork that I do for him. So if I do digigrade, that means I need to make my fursuit into a digigrade fursuit and draw him with digigrade legs and in poses that work with that. If I want to do plantigrade, then I just need to continue with this. Now, I have no idea how comfortable it is to wear digigrade outfits. I'm also trying to do something semi-realistic. So, like the very thick fursuits with hips for days, I'm not really going down that road. I'm going for more of a slim fit. And so I'm not sure exactly how to get into the slim fit suits and stuff like that. I have done some initial research. But needless to say, I feel like I might be giving myself more work and more effort by going down the digigrade path versus having a plantigrade and maybe when I'm drawing the feet here, maybe I just have like regular animal kind of claws. I think that's probably more my speed. So this is why I'm choosing this route here. That being said, we pretty much have the basic outline, basic feel for this. So we have our wireframe mannequin, nothing crazy happening right now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to drop that opacity. Drop it down to 20%. I like dropping opacities down to 20% because they're barely visible, but they're visible enough. I am a layered sketch artist. What does that mean? That means it may take me, who knows, 10, 20 layers. I wouldn't say maybe that many, but nonetheless, it may take me 10 to 20 layers of continual sketching on top of the same frame for me to get what I want and what I'm looking for. And so now we'll just go ahead and we're going to zoom in on our character, zoom in on our wireframe. And now we're going to start getting a little bit more detailed. Now I'm going to start getting those proportions right. And like I said, all this is subject to change. So we're not going to get these proportions right. Add a new layer. And we're just going to simply go over top of this stuff. As far as like this head shape, right? There's really nothing to change here. This is just a big ball bearing. The viewpoints are fine. We don't need to change anything like that. So essentially we can just trace over these lines for the most part. We might want to refine the actual like nice smooth curve a little bit. Complete choice, not something that you have to do or worry about. Let's see. He's looking down a little bit here. I think I want more of like let's see. There we go. There, that's more the speed I want to go. Blue or purple. It's actually like a blue-gray. So the best thing I could say is like a subdued navy color, a navy blue. I think it's a cool color. It's like a natural hair color, but obviously the designs and everything with the kabuki mask is essentially like the kabuki mask is just part of his fur. And I think this is really unique. And not saying that I'm trying to be so unique that I'm different than everybody else, but again, I just, this is just coming from my brain. So, but yeah, that's the color. It's like a subdued navy blue. All right, and so now we're going to get a little bit more detailed with the neck here. Again, it's pretty much just a line, right? But we can do a little bit of thickness if you want. All up to you. Make a nice little cylinder. Cylinders are very important, mind you. Cylinders are very important. Now you can go and make like an actual cylinder unnecessary, especially when something is sitting on top of something. You don't have to go that crazy, right? You don't have to draw the other side of the sphere over here, and this line continues like this, and draw an actual globe. That's no, don't worry about that. Better than my entire monochrome one. I don't think yours was too monochrome. Let me see, let me bring back up your profile here real quick. I mean, you got white paws, black hair, gray, and stuff. So I mean, you have a very neutral. You have a neutral colored palette, which is kind of like what I did too, right? I did this as well. A very light gray underbelly fur, so it's not a true white fur underbelly. It's like a light gray blue, but I did the red face mask and the white spot markings and the black mustache. I thought the mustache was kind of cute and cool at the same time. Cute and cool. Just a little flash of color, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do anything else on the body. I think the rest of the body is just going to be that neutral, monocolored. Oh, that's right. They call it neutral colors. Forgot about that. Yeah, no, yeah, neutral colors. I like neutral colors. When we were doing, if you watched any of the earlier art sessions, I was trying to figure out what color palette I wanted to use. And so when we're trying to clothe furries, or clothe anybody really, to clothe someone, having neutral colors helps you pick out so much more accessories for yourself than ever. Because having bright colors, let's just think about it real quick. If you have a bright colored fur, let's say very light blue, Sonic the Hedgehog kind of colors, putting clothes on that, especially like normal people clothes and stuff, very difficult to make that look. This is my personal opinion, hot take. It makes it hard to look good. Typically, with loud colors, you also have to have louder or just as loud colored attire for it to make sense or match. Now, you can go one spectrum color or over the other, such as like going complete white or complete black. So, like a loud furry color, a lot of I think furries like bright yellows and blues and greens and stuff like that. Dressing in black clothes or white clothes is pretty fine. Looks good. Looks good. So now that we got the neck, again, this is just a bar there. We're just enhancing the wired figure. We're enhancing everything. We're just going to follow down. Now, there's many ways to do this, right? Many ways to do this. I kind of already know how this is going to go. So I'm going to draw this right here. It's kind of an advanced line. This is advanced line artwork. All right. I'm going to do that one more time for you. Dip and around. This line here that I'm making is the connection point between the neck, the trap, and the shoulder. We're going to do the same thing on this end here. And I might just do some sketching stuff. If you have any questions about this, let me know. And so what we're basically doing is kind of like the upper half of the body. Now we also have the clavicle, right? Which is this like a little V here, and it goes off. And it's right here. You can feel it right on, right underneath your neck. It's right where at the base of the neck is. So this just goes off here, and that goes off to that side. These traps are actually a little too shallow, so we're just going to fix that. There we go. Ebony, from the 2 cons I've been to, so many wear t-shirts that don't match with their fur at all. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But as I was saying, though, with neutral colors such as yours and mine, I mean, with your fursona, you could wear any kind of clothes. So you're not limited with your color palette. Unlimited color. But we're going to keep that circle there. So I kind of just want to connect these. Just connect these. This is my little circle. This is all that right there. And then, like I said, the chest is, going this way. So we're just going to try and draw those pecs. Pecs kind of just go off in a little V shape here. Nothing crazy, right? Just kind of make it like bulge. He's a little muscular. Just a little. Not a whole lot, just a little. We're not drawing six-pack abs, man. This is just a basic body plan. I don't really ever plan to have a chest fur done of this character. I will always be wearing clothes. So this is another thing that you need to also keep in mind too when you're doing character creation is how far on the muscle stuff do you need to go? It all depends on how you're portraying your character. If your character wears a lot of clothes, then this is going to be very basic. If your character doesn't wear a whole lot of clothes or does mostly upper body stuff, then you're going to want to have a lot of emphasis in your arms, in your chest, and the muscle architecture, and so on and so forth. It's all based on how you want to portray things. Right now, to me, this is still basic. Obviously, I'm going to have clothes, but I want to be able to just have an idea of how this is going to work. Now, we also have to think about muscle connection too while we're doing this. So this is fine because ultimately the muscle kind of trails off over here. I know this might be hard to see. I don't know. But if anything is hard for you to see, I will always zoom in. You just let me know. But your muscles are going to attach here. So the top of your shoulder is like its own separate muscle. And then you have the pec. And the pec goes up and around like this. So, because this is essentially your armpit right here. You don't want to do a pectoral that's just like that. You can. I mean, I'm not telling you not to do it. But I'm just saying, technically not how it's supposed to be. Technically. Little swoop, just like that. Ebony says, the ones with actual exposed chest do look really weird. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie either. It is a little strange. But here's the thing, I'm sure there's a way to make it look good. It's just hard to do. Especially when you have to articulate muscle and stuff like that. If you don't do it right, it's going to look awful, or it's going to look weird or upsetting. Whatever the case may be. So then, of course, the abs are going to go down here. Just draw a nice little line. This is your spine, right? So obviously the abs are going to be a little bit in front of that. But we kind of want to follow the same curvature. Let's see if I can remember all this from memory. It's because it's been a minute. Been just a little minute. So we got this here. And then... And there we go. And then there's a line that will go there. A line that goes there. And a line that goes there. Kind of just do the same thing over here. There we go. All I can say is I'm so sorry if that was too fast, or you didn't get it, or whatever. This is just body mapping, is what this is. And again, this is all going to be covered by clothes, so I'm not saying that I'm doing too much work, but I'm just comfortable with doing it this way. And so we got the shoulder blade. Shoulder blade's right about there. And it'll just come down. Nice little swoop right there. And then just kind of go right there. Belly button should be, if I remember right, somewhere around there. Yeah. Again, it's going to be covered by clothes. Doesn't really matter. And then, let's see here. So as far as hips are concerned, obviously, we got the hip there. So we're going to take a line and meet that hip. And take this line and meet that hip as well. Everything has curves. Don't use straight lines. Stop it. Don't use straight lines. There's nothing straight in nature. Nothing is ever truly straight. Am I right? Am I right? Of course I'm right. Of course I'm right. All right. So The reason why I'm doing the body first is because the body is essentially, it's kind of like taking a potato. This might be a terrible thing to like an analogy or example, but when you have a potato and you want to make a potato person, right? Well, you got to have the potato first in order to put the toothpicks in it. So therefore, I'm drawing my potato. I'm drawing my potato, and I'm gonna put toothpicks in it. Um, so, and now we're just kind of again just the groin area, just basic representation. We don't need to do anything crazy again. It just this is we're still in rough draft, very very rough draft. Ebony says that's not a bad analogy at all. Thank you. I think it's a fair point. You start with a potato and then you start, and it's with anything. I could have used like marshmallow, like before you roast a marshmallow over fire, right? You got to stick it with something and whatever. Clearly, the point was made and has been gotten. Well received. Well received. Um, and the groin area, and so now we have our hip, and we can just kind of match that up. Um, Again, we're not really too concerned with things. He's got a little bit of a feminine body, which as far as me as my own body structure, I have kind of a feminine male body too. So this is just proves into the whole thing. Like you kind of put yourself, especially when I'm trying to represent myself as a furry, I'm putting myself into this. Now, granted, I am not this fucking shredded. Okay, I am not even close to looking that gorgeous. But I have this build though, and so now what we can do is start putting the toothpicks in the potato, and we can start anywhere. It doesn't matter. So we'll start with this. This is going to be probably our easiest thing to do. So like I said, I kind of already made the shoulder, right? And now we're going to make like a cylinder. And bring this down just like this. And this is just the rough step. This is not refinement in any way. Just continue that line. And we can do lines this way. I think this is the proper way. So basically we're creating that roundness, and it's going in this direction. Because if we were to go the lines this way, it works too. What we're basically just trying to do is represent curvature. And these cylinders aren't too important, especially if they're getting, clothed. And again, I'm probably not going to do a whole lot of muscle. Like this right here, in my opinion, was too much muscle. I really just needed this. If we want to erase all that, like, if we want to be real, that's really all I need. I didn't need all the muscle work. But it's good to know this, didn't have that knowledge. Let's see, did I just move my... yes, I did. Yes, I did. All right, so we had the joint there. We got the arm going down here. So, we got our bicep. We got the muscles. We got to be muscular. Got to be strong. And then, of course, with your bicep, there is actually a little bit of space here before you hit the actual, elbow joint. This would so there's like a little dip here, and then you get to your elbow. This is actually pretty. This would be a more advanced thing, because again we're covering it with clothes, but just kind of want to give you an idea. So, but we're gonna draw another ball, kind of cover up half of it as best as possible. But again, we don't have to be exact. We just need to have representation. That's all we need, is just a little bit of representation. And then we're gonna have another cylinder. And now really actually what dictates where the cylinder goes is like the circle that you draw. So when we draw it like this, right? So that cylinder is clearly going in this direction, and this is how much surface area you have at the top of it. Versus if you drew a cylinder like this, now we know, like, it's going this way. because you have all this surface area here. This is why cylinders are very important. They give your arms, and it gives your appendages not only volume, but it also gives a direction. And since I did not, as you see here, I did not complete a circle here, right? I could have, but I did not, because this circle is not visible in the plane of existence. Like, I can't see through this guy's arm. I can only see what's on the surface. This right here, we could actually go and erase that. Right? We could do that if we wanted to, because it's just this top part that would be actually visible. But I like to draw, like, your initial oval is just kind of like the idea of where you want your lines to go. If your oval's like this, your lines are going to go this way. If your oval is like this, your lines are going to go this way. That's pretty much it. Ebony says, hey, it doesn't matter how unrealistic it is, it's not your human form. That is correct. I actually made a One Piece reference not too long ago where, I mean, if you ever watched One Piece, they're not anatomically correct. But everybody loves the characters. Everybody loves the designs. And it's just because it's really good character development. So, continuing on. Let's see, we're going to have a nice relaxed arm here. There you go. Now, with the forearm, it's not exactly like the bicep. So, with the bicep, it's pretty much like an even thing, right? The forearm, if you look at your own forearm, and you're holding your arm out here, well, the base of your elbow to your wrist goes like this. Right? Right. Exactly. So you kind of want to also portray that in your cylinders a little bit. So this is more of like a cone cylinder to some degree. See how I get a little skinny right there? A little cone cylinder. There you go. And it's just going this way just like that. There you go. And as you also notice, like, I'm zoomed in. Like, I'm completely focused on this area here. Nothing else matters to me. No, Ebony, no. You be you. You're wonderful. I enjoy you in the chat. I am not on a time frame. This is not a commission for someone. I have nothing to do today. It is raining outside. I'm enjoying some coffee this morning. Quick little sip, and we're just relaxing. We're just relaxing. Nothing crazy. I really enjoy the company. I enjoy your company. So by all means, don't worry. You can talk your head off with me. We can talk about anything. It does not even matter. I will give you my 2 cents on whatever you want to talk about while we do this. And then, so making the forearm, just kind of taper off that cylinder, because it's just going to help you. Can you do a normal cylinder? Yes, of course, you can do a normal cylinder. It's fine. But helping you along the way of anatomy, just go ahead and taper that off a little bit. And then, of course, your wrist is a joint too, right? Your wrist is a joint. Make another circle. Now, if you notice, all my circles are within the cylinders. My joint circles are not like this. Okay, that's not correct, because we are trying to be proportional. If my joint is that big, that means my hand is going to be massive. Not a problem, just saying, if that's what you're going for, that's what you have to do. But if you're going for an actual normal hand size, then you need to have a smaller joint. Make sure your joints stay within the cylinders. And so when you're standing, and look again, we're standing this way, right? And we're perspective off this way. That was a terrible arrow, but you understand. So we're facing off in that direction. When we have our hands to our sides, when we're standing to the side of someone, we basically see the back of the hand, right? So essentially, we're going to have the back of our hand right here. And I'm not going to lie. Hands and feet are not my strong suit. Hands and feet are, I don't think they're anybody's strong suit. There are people that specialize specifically in hands and feet because they are so difficult to do. And I am no different. I'm probably going to have to look up references even for a resting hand like this. If they don't let anybody lie to you and tell you that hands and feet are easy. They're not. If they were, then, well, a lot of the artwork that I would see wouldn't be trying to hide them. the Now I will say claws are a little, in my personal opinion, a little easier than actual human hands and stuff. But again, they can be still pretty difficult. It's because you're really working with a lot of what we're doing up here, right? This is really easy. It's just one circle and a cylinder. Well, when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 joints on one thing, yeah, it can start to get a little harder to do, a little harder to think about. One thing that I have learned, and granted, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to put it into practice because it's been so long since I've done artwork, is that fingers have 3 lines. And if you look at your own finger, you can see your first segment, it starts at the base, which attaches to your palm. So that's right where we're at right here. Then you have 1, 2, 3. You have 3 segments. So 1, 2, 3. Now these are pretty long, but that's fine. We're, again, representation. That's all we need. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then your thumb, actually, it does have 3, but they're very squished. So the first one is like this. Then you have a second little one that's like right where that thumb joint is. And then you have the thumb itself that kind of curves a little bit. My thumb has a little bit of a curve. And so this is like your basic mapping for your hand. Ebony says, too bad I had my paws curled in that picture. You probably could have maybe referenced that. Now I'm going for more of a human paw. So 5 digits, just like this. I just bought, what was the name of that place that I got off Etsy? They're silicone paw pads. And they had 2 choices, which was you can have a 4 paw pad, or 4 toe bean, or a 5 toe bean. And since I'm going to be using my hands and pretty much putting a pair of gloves on, I went with the 5. And so therefore, since I went with 5, that's my plan. We will have clawed 5 digit paws. So very, very humanistic. Very humanistic. So definitely not the most furry of all furries, I guess you could say, as far as that's concerned, but we are still doing the things. So that is a basic way to do hands, to get started, to just kind of figure out your mapping. And this is a relaxed hand, right? So everything's just drooping down. There's no finger going off crazy like this, or there's no. Just let it relax. All right, never mind then. Mine was 4. And you can still use 4 pad references. You just have to add an extra digit. Just add a little extra circle right here, you know. And then so now, to finish off this hand, essentially just start doing connections. So we're just going to connect these lines, do a little extra width, connect this right here, and then just kind of do a little thing like that. And the hands aren't going to be very detailed because when we zoom out, right, like the hands are going to be whatever. They're just there to be there. So we're going to draw that. And then we kind of went off. And then another thing too, your resting fingers, just go ahead and hold your hand in the air. Just put it up in the air and just let your wrist, let your wrist just like fall flat, and then your hand just relax your hand. Your fingers aren't straight. None of them are. None of them have an actual straight line to them throughout the whole hand. In order for you to have straight fingers, you have to flex your fingers. You actually have to do an action. You have to use your muscles in order to straighten up your fingers. But if you relax, your fingers actually fall into like an easy line, like almost like a spiral, right? That's when you're relaxing. Like your pinky's right here, your index finger's right here. It makes like a little windmill kind of thing. I don't know how to explain that, but use your own body. Use yourself, and you will find how to kind of do these things. So since I'm relaxed to the side, my fingers are bending and they're curling in towards the body, as they should, since this is the back of the hand right here. So my fingers are going to curl this way. So any lines that I do with my main 4 here, they need to curl in towards the body. I'm not flexing them in any way, shape, or form. So we're just going to do that. And then this one I can just leave alone. I mean, I don't really need to do anything there. Again, these are not refined. This is just representation of where this would be. And so now we're going to go over to the next one and do essentially the same thing. So since my arm is going off into this direction, right, so really my cylinder is going to be right here. Somewhere around that area. Maybe a little bit more like this. And then we're going to draw it out. And then, of course, how that goes. So the lines are going to go this way, right? As far as like how the cylinder is twisted. So my last line on my cylinder is going to be this way. My last line on my cylinder is not going to be this way. It can be if you want, but that's more so like things are going out this way. It's hard to explain. Hard to explain. The cylinder, for the most part, actually is going to be pretty tight. It's not going to be, like a wide cylinder, because that means the arm is going off in that direction, which is not correct. It's going mostly in line with the viewer. Ebony says, not going to lie, even if it is a rough draft, it's already looking pretty good. Oh, I appreciate that. I really do. And my proportions are off. Like, my head needs to be a little smaller. We will change all these things as we go down the road. Right now, we are still in the mapping phase. Let's see. I'm gonna get my line just the way I want it. Nothing wrong with wanting your line just the way you want it. There you go. And you're also going to know that you made your cylinder the right way when it looks like the right way. So this looks like it is supposed to be that way. When something looks like it's supposed to be that way, then, everything else just falls into place. It all just falls into place. Now you can say, well, this isn't connected. How are we going to connect these things? Just with lines. Again, we're not really concerned with how tight this is and the special musculatures and things like that. We just see how we're just connecting things with lines, using curves and connecting things. Now I've made my armpit. I mean, there you go. Don't worry about it. Like, don't worry about these gaps and stuff with these cylinders. They're just there to help you find out where to go. And then everything else, you just start drawing some lines. Start drawing some lines. That makes sense. If I'm going to connect as a perfect example, so we have this gap right here, right? Well, what makes sense? Just think about what makes sense to cover this gap. Make a curve. Just make a curved line and go right on the top. And just like with this gap right here, just make a curve. Go and follow the curve down. That's all you gotta do. Real easy stuff. Real easy stuff. Nothing too crazy. And then we're going to make our little ball joint. Remember, stay inside the cylinder. Stay inside the cylinder. And then we're going to make our next oval. And then taper it off. And see, we didn't even go out this far. We can go a little further. Again, we're going to have to see about proportions and things like that before too long. But, you know, the major thing here is that we are, again, just doing that representation. There you go. And here's another thing too. If you find like that you don't like the position of that arm, right? Or you're not sure how to draw this direction, here's something you can do. There you go. Just put it where it needs to go. Just put it where it needs to go. You don't have to do anything special. You can also make it bigger, smaller. Um, you know, having multiple layers with each section is probably like, you know, well, that's one in my opinion too much work. But at the same time, you can adjust all of these things, and you can just visually look at the whole and be like, okay, well that's pretty big there, so we probably need to go, you know, about that big there. And ultimately, I probably made this arm a little too small, anyways. Just looking at it, it's easy. Just fix it. Just circle around, make it bigger. There you go. Move it around. It's a joint. Move it around. Ebony says, I would have probably sent you the entire picture of a loose reference point, but you're doing, you're going the more human shape rather than my anime-ish one. Yes. And like I said, I put thought into this because I'm a little bit older of a gentleman, and I'm a stiff-bodied individual as well, and I'm thinking about my comfort. So if I'm going to be fursuiting, of which is the ultimate plan here, I want to be comfortable. And so my first fursuit, this is everything. I just want to be comfy. So walking around for hours, doing bending and stuff like that, or poses and stuff, I want to have my full articulation that has been given to me with my creation on this planet. And this more humanish kind of anthropomorph seems to be more appropriate to accomplish that. And so then we're going to do another little circle here. That's our X joint. And in looking at this is a little big. Little big. Oop. There we go. Yeah, there you go. That'll work. Everything can be adjusted. Everything can always be adjusted. And so now we're going to have like an open palm, right? So if I'm just sitting here and I have my palm open loosely, my fingers still want to curl back toward me. I'm not using any muscle. I'm just relaxing my hand. And so looking at how my hand is relaxed, we're going to just draw a rectangle. The thumb is coming up just a little bit, right? So this is like the palm, right? So the thumb is coming up over the ridge, and it's sideways. So my first line is like this, second line like this, and then well, it's more like just slightly up, because the thumb itself is like doing one of these numbers. And so if we try to represent that, it's something like this. Pretty close to it. of course, as I said, we can adjust all these things. And then your palm kind of like that. So we have our pinky. And really all of these circles are going to be pretty much in line with each other. So all 4 of your fingers are going to be like this. So my pinky wants to go up like that, up like this, and like that. Draw that line a little smaller. My my ring finger wants to go out a little bit more, and then up, and then over. My middle finger wants to go out even further, and then up, and then over. And then my ring finger, or my index finger, you really can't see too much, so we're not really going to worry about it. Not really going to worry about it. But as you see, like that looks like an open palm, an open hand. There you go. Ebony says, sorry, most of this is probably just me being so used to wearing and seeing mine that seeing a shape like yours is strange. I'm sure. I feel like most furries, and this is just my personal opinion from really an outsider kind of point of view, since I'm just now joining this. A lot of furries are digigrade. A lot of furries are digigrade, and they're an anime style. A lot of the artists, like I'm also in the group for Club Furry on Facebook. A lot of the artists, it's all anime style, of which this is still an anime style, right? This is still an anime style, but it's a semi-realistic anime style. And it's something that I don't see too much, or much at all, in the furry fandom or furry culture. And so me doing this is definitely unique and maybe strange. And you proved the point, Ebony. You've proven the point. Like, my shape is just interesting. And on top of that, I'm doing plantigrade at this point instead of a digigrade, right? Because this would be kind of like how the digigrade would look. And then something like this would be a little bit more like, something a little bit more furries are used to. That'd be something more what furries are used to. It's just, again, I don't know what my comfort level will be with such a type of fursuit like that, and or if I can achieve what I want to do with a fursuit like that. So I definitely want to try plantigrade, and who knows, maybe I can evolve my character over time. Nothing's ever, uncertain, just like we change our hairstyle from time to time. Granted, I'm changing my entire body, but hey, there's people that change their entire bodies, aren't there? Absolutely. So nothing is ever set in stone. You can always change yourself. You can always do something different. So again, we have a pretty basic thing going on here. I think this is a nice pose so far. And then the legs, are essentially going to be in the same kind of wellhouse as these arms. They're going to be fairly easy. They're just a larger version, right? They're just a larger version of a cylinder. There you go. This cylinder, of course, since we're on a side view, right, since we're turned a little bit, this cylinder is not out here. That's not how this is going to work. This cylinder is more in line with the groin area. So drawing a line in the groin area and then coming up and around is going to be more so the speed that we're going here. Now, if you want to create a gate, like I've kind of created, you just add a little bit of angle, just a small angle, to your cylinder. I know this is more like a round thing, but there you go. That's how you kind of create a little bit of a gate. And then your kneecap. Try to put it on the outside of the cylinder of where your leg is going to be, right? So instead of the elbow regions, like this is in the middle of the cylinder, right? Since your kneecap, you can draw a circle if you want to. That's perfectly fine. But try and do something. If you're going to do a circle for your joint, try and put something to represent the kneecap. Because you kind of have like a you can go anywhere you want kind of thing going on here, and you're gonna have to really use your imagination to get your calves in the right spot. Versus if you have something, anything, it doesn't matter what it is, representing your kneecap, then your cylinders are going to make sense on where they go from there, because your kneecap is always protruding away from both of your calf or your thigh and calf muscles. Yeah, you can't put this kneecap far back or anything. You're gonna have some weird shit going on. So just make sure your cylinder starts anywhere behind this kneecap, and you're gonna be just fine. You're gonna be just fine, just fine. I think this might be a step that a lot of people don't do. I'm in that group too. I don't really do it this often. Is having kneecap parts. It's a joint. Your kneecap is a joint, separate from the ligaments that are also in back behind here. Because you have a bone, right? You have a bone that does this, that allows this joint. Your kneecap stops. It stops this from hyperextending. That's the whole point of your kneecap, is to stop your legs doing this number here. It's that's the point of your knee. If you don't have a kneecap, your legs are gonna go woo. You got your foot over here. You got your. I feel really bad for those that do not have kneecaps. This is why kneecaps are very important. So it helps keep that joint from your muscles from hyperextending into the wrong direction and having. So yes, when you're making legs, have a kneecap somewhere. Have your kneecap somewhere. That makes sense, and it's forward facing this way. My chest is facing this way. My head is facing this way. Everything is going in this direction. Also have uniform direction. Yes, this kneecap can twist and go in this direction here. This kneecap can twist a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, and go something like that. But for the most part, when you're standing in a neutral stance, as we're trying to achieve here, everything is going in the same direction. Maybe a little bit of tilt, but same direction. All right, so let's finish this up. And funnily enough, your forearms are essentially the same as your calves. They're tapered off. Make another tapered cylinder. There you go. It's crazy how much your body is actually very uniform, and how actually not too many shapes are involved with creating the body. There's just a lot of them. That's really all it is. There's just a lot of shapes, but they're all simple. I've pretty much used nothing but cylinders and circles this whole time. Granted, like I said, we did get a little detailed here, but that's just me. But for the most part, we've created a pretty nice little mannequin. And then of course your ankles are a joint, and you can have a foot go off in this direction. So if we're drawing feet that are coming towards you, right? They're coming towards you. Draw a triangle that is fat at the bottom, because you're going to have a toesy here, and a toesy here, and a toesy here, and a toesy here, and a toesy here. Right? And then if you have a foot going off in this direction, then you want to do a straight back line, and then a longer, more of like, I don't know what the correct triangle is called. I don't know if that's an isosceles triangle, and this is like an equilateral triangle. But needless to say, this one is short and fat at the end, and then this one is short but long, because your toe is going to be right about here. And then this leaves room for your muscles and your actual heel and ankles and all that shit. And so that's basically how we're standing. However, there is one thing that we're missing, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages. We are missing something. It's very important. Very important for furries. It's a tail. So we need a tail. Well, People draw tails wrong all the time. I think tails are probably a very hard thing for people to do, especially when you don't have the basic structures of your mannequin. Ebony says, I suppose that's one good thing with this design is unlike me and a lot of the fandom, you probably wouldn't have to deal with the bulky knee pad inserts. Yes, I didn't even know about that. I didn't know you needed knee pad inserts. Shows you how much I actually know. I just know, in as far as what research I have done, that there is a lot more involved with obtaining a digigrade type of leg style that, again, I just don't know how comfortable I would be with that. I'm sure there's many ways of being comfortable with that, and I would be just fine. However, I'm just looking out for myself. I think this plan is a lot easier to work with, not only in the artistic realm, although in art I can do anything. But ultimately, I think that just for how I really like and want to portray myself, this works. So, getting back to the tail. Well, where does the tail actually go? It doesn't go right here. If it does go right there, well, we're going to move on from that one. It does not go right there. So, like I said, the spine is actually... this might make sense. The spine is in the back. It's on the back side. So if we draw your spine, right, and pretty much we're going to make a tailbone, hence why they call it a tailbone. So when we think about your hips and your circumference, the groin, and then your gluteus maximus, stuff like that, your tailbone is actually pretty high. It's pretty high on your back. It's somewhere probably right around here. So if we're going to try and get this right as best as possible, this angle that I made earlier, right, that pretty much can just be translated to the back here in some way, shape, or form. And right about there would be about the tailbone. Right, let me draw a nice red arrow. Right about there. And this particular angle would be the tailbone. So, we're just going to color match our stuff again here. Color match. Okay. So, now as far as a tail is considered, we can do all sorts of things. We can have a relaxed tail, right? We could have an excited tail. We could have one that's like, swooping to the side a little bit, or swooping to the other side. Or we could even create a wag effect, right? Let's see here. What would be a wag effect? It kind of depends. Could do something like this. I guess this would be more straight. Yeah. And then it would go like this way. And you'd have the wag lines there and the wag line there. And then you have like a shadow of your tail, right? So you'd have the main tail part that you want to keep in design, and then you'd have a shadow version, and then with wiggle lines, so that way it shows like an action, so to speak. You're wagging your tail. But we're not going to do that, and that's a little advanced. That's a little much. Again, we're just kind of showing off the general body shape of Kitsukai. Kitsukai needs some body shape here. So, I would say he's pretty relaxed. So, when you think about a tail, right, and you're drawing into your tailbone like this, it's not going to go straight down. And you kind of just have to look at dogs in general, right, and their rump. So this is like a dog rump, and then the tail is like right about here. That's where it starts. They usually have a little bump right here because your vertebra that attaches to the spine, right, your whole spine cord here, the bone isn't cartilage. We don't have cartilage. We have bone. And so it juts out a little bit like this, and then the rest of the vertebra is kind of free to roam about and do whatever it wants. So when we are trying to make a tail that's relaxed, you are going to have a little bit of a bump because your bones have to come out of your body. Your bones have to come out. And to finish that line, just, just a little, there you go. It's a little bump. A little bump right there. And that's a relaxed tail. Ebony says, with my type of legs, you need the bulky knee pads to get the look and bend your knees a tiny bit while you walk to adjust to the shape. I don't know. Like, I mean, I'd be willing to try. Like, if someone, like, that's around my same size was like, hey, dude, do you want to try did your legs real quick? And, like, I could, like, jump into someone's legs and try it out, then that would maybe change my perspective of things. But since I have not had this experience yet, I have to err on the side of caution and just kind of keep myself mostly human. Again, just for my own benefit. But yes, so this would be, like I said, your relaxed tail. A little bit of a bump, drop it down, and make a little curl. Now, with this being said, we can do cylinders and stuff here, but there is no muscle really in the tail, right? Like, I could just draw this, and that's the tail. And the fur is a detail, right? That's what fur is. Fur is a detail. It comes off of the tail, comes off of that muscle on the tail, and that's how you get your tail shape. However, we can go a different route with this. We can just kind of have like a basic representation of kind of like the thickness of fur. That's pretty much what we're doing. We did the thickness of muscle here. Let me get red. We did the thickness of muscle. That's what we focused on. With a furry, really what you're kind of focusing on is thickness of fur. So if we want to create something with thickness, to give an idea of like what kind of shape and stuff like this tail might have, we can go down this road. It's not necessary, but we can go down this road. So let's color match again. Right about there. There we go. So obviously it's going to be a little smaller here. But we're going to create wedges. We're going to create wedges for the tail. So a flat spot, and then a line that creates a wedge. Ebony says, again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to stay quote-unquote human, especially if you're starting out. That's good to know. Good to know. Good to know. And then with your wedge, you're going to do essentially the same thing again. Create another wedge. And then create another wedge. And then create another wedge. And then create maybe a triangle. A wedgie triangle. A wedgie triangle. And essentially, as you just see, we just made a tail, essentially. Or at least the idea of a tail. And as you noticed, I followed my line. Because that's how the tail is going to be. That's how the fur is going to behave, too. So, we can do this. I would say, for me, this isn't too necessary. So we're gonna delete it. But it's just because I plan to actually make my own fur and just kind of follow the line and go from there, right? And just have fun, right? That's kind of my idea. That line is just to make sure that when I am making my fur lines, as you see, I am following the guideline that I made. That's all this line represents right here, is a guideline. And so when I'm making my actual tail, I'm just going on my guidelines. And for my tail, I am probably going to have to look at some references, just because I'm supposed to be a fox, and I know foxtails are like super bushy, and then they kind of taper off a little bit at the end. So I just want to kind of have an idea. I'm going to look at some anime foxes to get some ideas on how to really do the fur like this. And go from there. Otherwise, though, stage 2 is pretty much done. We got more details. We got more detailed. If we take this back off, like, this is what we started with. And this is where we're at. That's a pretty big jump. And as I usually and have been trying to teach, is that when we do these other layers, of course, we need to lower the opacity of the prior layer to essentially fade away, because we don't need it anymore. I know, such a sad thing to say. So sad. So we started off at 20% with our first layer. Our new layer is 100%, right? Well, if we drop our new layer to 20%, then even though I could probably pick out the lines and stuff and whatnot, there's still a lot of noise, right? Like, look how much stuff goes away if the layer underneath in it goes away. But I might not necessarily be done with it yet. I might not necessarily say, well, I don't really need my my underlayer. So all you need to do is just decrease by like maybe 5%. So let's take it to 15%. Still there, maybe 10%. There you go, 10%. I think 10% is fine. Yeah, 10% is all right. But like I said, if you're going to do layer sketching like I do, where you just continually get more detailed and more detailed and more detailed on every single layer you do, you need to develop a system to either delete, of which will eventually happen, mind you. It will eventually happen to delete your earlier layers, or fade them out of existence with the opacity. Because, again, you don't need those things anymore. You don't need those lines. Ebony says, just don't let the tail drag along the ground and let kids step on it. Worst part of my experience. If you notice, here's where my feet are. Here's where my tail is. Believe me, I most certainly, not so much that I've taken that particular instance into consideration, but I definitely don't want my tail to drag. So there is definitely a gap of where the tail is going to end. So I have always had the perspective when it comes to furry and anthropomorphics and proportions that the tail tip should probably end right just above the ankle. Somewhere, and I'm not talking right on the ankle or just a little bit below it, like right here. To me, that when you go below this joint with any object, including capes, mind you, your foot can articulate back this way, right? You can have a foot that has like a high heel or something like that, or you can kick back, and needless to say, you really don't want anything disrupting the joint area of your costumes or anything that you wear, because it's just going to give you a potential of getting tangled up in something, especially when you sit down, because you're shortening the distance between your pelvis and where you sit, right? There's a huge difference between sitting and standing. And if you put something down that goes below that joint, if you have like a high heel, right? I know this is really crazy art going on right now. If you have a high heel, where's my high heel shoe? It's beautiful, isn't it? And you have a cape that was dangling here, it's going to be right here. That cape is going to be on the ground right here, and so your heel is actually probably going to step on your own cape. I know that was a lot of wild line work there, but trying to just to talk through and make the point. So anytime you have something behind you, such as a glorious, beautiful cape, never let it drop below your joints on your feet, your ankles. Don't let it go past your ankles. Keep your capes calf high. If you want them to have a little extra, like, pretty much right about here would be like the limit. I mean, that's a pretty big ass cape. I mean, that's a big cape. Let's think about this. That's a pretty big cape. Now, I have a director Krennic cosplay, and his cape actually goes like right to the back of the boot, and this isn't good. Now, granted, he misses the heel of his boots with his cape, but it is right there. And so, sitting down as Director Krennic from Star Wars, if you don't know who Director Krennic is, hell, I can actually bring up an example. We have the internet. Director Krennic. There we go. Images. Let's see if we can find an image that has... here we go. Perfect. Look at that. Oh, it's beautiful. God, I love Director Krennic. I love his uniform, too. And this is why I have Director Krennic's uniform. Okay, so... let me get back to OBS so I can see what I'm doing here. Make sure that you all can see. Let's see. Before we show off, I see Ebony says, part of the problem, though, was probably because when I was designing Ebony, she was a cat-fox hybrid, so it had to be a fluffy and long tail. Yeah, cat-fox hybrid. That's pretty cool. Your persona just gets cooler and cooler the more that you describe her. So that's awesome. Cat-fox hybrid. So yes, let's get into the screenshot I just took. So that way I can explain this a little bit more when it comes to having tails and capes and stuff. Completely relevant to everything that we're doing. So much relevance. Like, we are like, oh my god, so relevant right now. Okay. Let's get rid of this so I can see the OBS screen. Okay, so this is Director Krennic, right? Let's see if we can zoom in. If you notice, like I said, his cape is right in the back of his heel. This is okay if you always plan to stand up. Which, of course, in the movie, he doesn't sit down. And in fact, the only time that he has a problem, I would say, is when Darth Vader force chokes him and says, "Be careful to choke on your aspirations, director." And you see him on the ground, and his cape is completely covering his boots, I believe. But of course, I don't know if the camera shot gives that. But getting up from that pose of him being actually curled over on the ground from Darth Vader's choke, he would probably step on his cape and fall on his face like he had his hands in his pockets. So this is why you don't want this. His cape, I can't really draw. His cape should have ended right about where my hand is. That's where the cape should end. It shouldn't. Now, does this look good? Fuck yes, of course it looks good. It looks beautiful. This is glorious. This is just pure handsome on a galactic scale. And so, yeah, long flowing capes are just, they're a power thing. They're awesome. It's clearly well done. But in a practical sense, though, for myself and Ebony here, when we're talking about actually living this part and trying to function at cons or just walking out in public and stuff like that, this doesn't work that well. And when I was at cons dressed as Director Krennic, I ran into this issue of where I sometimes felt like I was stepping on my cape because I put my foot up too high or something like that. So just things to keep in mind. Just things to keep in mind when you're designing characters and stuff. So there's that. Let's just delete this layer because there's nothing there. So hopefully we learned something today. I hope a lot of people learned something today. I know Ebony has learned a lot today. Let's see, what time do we got? It is 9 a.m. Let's see, how long have we been on the stream? I'm going to take a quick look here. How long have we been doing this? Uh, an hour and 55 minutes. Ebony says, with tails, it's not as bad though. More of the concern is other people. Like I said, yeah, absolutely. Because your tail, as even shown here, right, is away from the body. So it's away from the body, and anytime that you have something away from your body, I mean, look how much space that tail takes up. That's a lot of area. That of which I'm sure furries run into this problem. If there was a table sitting here, a nice table with a vase on it, right, with a nice vase, with a bouquet of flowers. It's a very nice vase. This is just luxury to the highest degree. This tail is in the way. Because if this tail goes this way, it's going to smack the table, and the table's going to go all over the place, and versus the body, though, this body is not even close to the table. It's not close. So furries have the unique problem of the tails not only being not an obstruction, but being an extension of the body and requiring more space to move. But other people around you also are not used to this too. Now, obviously, furries are used to it because you live it. We all live this as furries. But when you're around normal people, a tail doesn't really register. It's not something that people pay attention to, especially when there's something that is anthropomorphic in the same size that they are. They're not paying attention to a tail. And so people stepping on it, running into it, kids grabbing it, I'm sure that's a problem. There's just a lot of things that can happen with a tail. So when designing a tail, at the very least you can do is make sure it does not go past your ankle joints. So there's my 2 cents on that. All right, so this is the wife is cooking something and it smells really delicious. I've been up since like 6 o'clock this morning, so I haven't eaten anything. I've just had coffee. What we are going to do here is we are going to refine the body. Pretty much we're going to get rid of all of these crazy lines going everywhere. We're just going to refine the body. I'm still not worried about the head. We're not even close to the head yet. I think the head's probably going to be the next layer. But we're just going to get rid of all of the line work and make it make sense. And then after that, I will probably end the stream, get something to eat, and come back. Sounds good? Sounds good. Ebony says, like I said, kids stepping on it and yanking it are the worst. I guarantee you. Guarantee you. Without a shadow of a doubt. So. Just redraw that head. I know my head needs to be a little smaller anyways, so do that. Size it down. There we go. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. And as you notice, I do this shape a lot. I do I do this shape a lot. Reason being is because muscles tend to make these angles when they attach to things. So this line is this is here, it's here, it's here. Like I make that line a lot with connecting points and stuff like that, and figuring out where stuff belongs. And I really can't tell you the reason, other than it feels good to do. It feels good to do. Ebony says, I did have a time where I was somewhat close to screaming at one for yanking my friend Marshmallow's tail. Oh boy. I'm sure there's probably a lot of aggravation. Like I'm assuming like just wouldn't stop doing it, right? Just wouldn't stop pulling on the tail. And so as you see with my previous lines, where the clavicle is, essentially my bone is going to be here, here, and then just look like whoop, just like that. Ebony says, the way I think of it every time is yes, the kids are annoying, but they're just kids after all. They're going to want to run up to a cute, fluffy thing. Agreed. Agreed. I couldn't tell you all the times that I dressed up as a stormtrooper. How many kids with a lightsaber came over to beat on me and smack my armor with their lightsabers and stuff? It happened quite a bit. So I understand the grievances of cosplayers. Most certainly. Most certainly. Now, let's see. Ebony says, if it was a blue lightsaber though hitting a stormtrooper, would it be justified? Would be justified. Yeah. I mean, I got hit by every color. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. Sith, Jedi. It didn't matter. I got my helmet smacked. I got my legs cut off. I mean, the life of the stormtrooper isn't, it's not glorious. It's not glorious. So now, something with the legs that you've noticed. So as you see here, I got my kneecap. Yeah, that's a nice kneecap. Would you just look at it? Just look at it. So we have like a little bit of bend here, and then the kneecap comes out. The back of the knee comes out. This is how the joint works. So if you ever wondered how people figure out how to put a freaking like how to make calf muscles and stuff, it's because they have a reference to the kneecap, and therefore they know that they need to put a divot in the back of the kneecap. There you go. There you go. There's the secret sauce. And then this is kind of more of a straight line, and then this kind of goes down like that. Now, in saying this, I'm already noticing an anatomical problem. The kneecap here would be more in line with my foot, because technically my foot is twisted from this position. So in reality, we're going to go back a few steps. And this is still fine. Nothing's really changed too much. But the kneecap, if I'm going to have my foot this way, the kneecap also has to be in line. And so now we are going to have a slight divot. And then you bulge out the muscle just a little bit, and then come down. There you go. That's more appropriate, since we are twisting this way, so that way our foot could be facing this way. We're going to make this a little bit more clean, a little cleaner. So we're trying to refine a little bit. Try, like I said, get rid of some of these lines and stuff. We just don't need them anymore. There's so many different ways to do a kneecap. It just has to be there. Now, if I remember right, on my feet, the outside, yes, the outside has the bone. So you look at your feet, the inside out, yeah, the outside has the bone. Sometimes I get that confused to where the bone goes. Some people will put it there. That's not right. It goes on the outside. That's just your one of your joints for your foot. And of course, like I said, feet are pretty difficult. But since I'm going to have some shoes on, I really don't have to worry about toes and stuff. I just have to have the idea of where this foot is going to be standing. So we got our heel, right? The heel is a circle. But I'm not going to draw the circle, but this would help you. All right, so the heel is a circle along with that joint that's sitting there. So you got basically a small circle and a big circle underneath it. And then you have the foot pad, which is going to be very squished, mind you, because this foot is pointing at you, essentially. So then you have the space between your heel and your foot pad, which is the archway, right? So you have, which this would be the better example to use. So you have your heel, then you have the archway, and then you have this, right? To draw it from this angle, though, that we're working on currently, essentially your foot pad takes that over. There's really no way to create, I'm sure that is false, you probably can, but there's really no way without taking a tremendous amount of time and having a lot of knowledge of anatomy to create that archway there. And like I said, the toes and stuff, they're all facing directly towards you, so this is kind of like your shoe and stuff like that. There you go. Since we're going to be clothed, and I'm not going to worry about too much claws, maybe I will. Maybe I might have a claw foot, and it's poking out and stuff like that. You might have like a sandal or something, right? I have no idea yet. I haven't gotten to that point. So we are still just having a representative of a shoe or a foot. No toes. No toes. Toes aren't that hard to make either. I think they're a little bit easier than fingers, actually. But needless to say, moving on. Now, we can do a couple things here. The buttock, the gluteus maximus, this, like I said, this is a pretty feminine boy body. So you actually might see a little bit of the butt, just like a little bit, something like that, before this thigh comes out. But at the same time, it's not quite necessary, or like we don't have to really worry about this too much. There we go. A little bit of a representation. A representation. My God, we're looking like a people. All right, now the heel. If you look at your own foot, I'm not sure what kind of position you are sitting in, lovely viewer, but your heel actually goes behind your ankle. So this ankle joint here, your foot doesn't do this. That'd be a style choice, not anatomically correct. It does something more like this. And then the top of your foot typically has like a little bit of a lump there, and then you have your toes and stuff. But again, we're just having a slight representation thing. We're probably going to have shoes on and stuff, so, And then you have your archway, and then your shoe there, or tip of your shoe, or you'd have your toes, whatever the case may be. But again, we're just trying to get more of a good shape, kind of see how big the feet are, how big the hands are. Do I need to make the hands bigger? It's kind of like what this phase is right now. So far, so good. Now we're going to draw some basic muscle. And the reason being is because with clothing, some clothing is form-fitting. And we really don't want to truly lose, some of these fitting points. Like, especially like the waist, I might want to put a belt here, which I am going to be putting a belt on this. So, we kind of want some of those cues. I don't really need the abs, like I said. It's nice to have them there, faded, but they're not necessary. But as you can see, like, Ebony says, trust me, you actually can't see the butt of people 99% of the time in full suits like mine, at least because of the tails. Yeah, I would assume, like, pretty much it's, non-existent. But if one thing you've noticed throughout this whole process so far is that really I'm just connecting lines that I've either made or make sense. Like, I'm not reinventing anything here. I'm just following my lines that I've been making, and all is well. All is well. have to remember where all my lines that I was thinking of. I'm going to have to zoom in on this thing. Alright, so this should be the pinky here. I don't think... No, that was actually my middle finger. This... Like, something just didn't seem quite right there. And then index finger is back here, but we're not too crazy concerned with it. Let's see, I'm going to look at how this... Okay, so we actually need to bring all of this, I think. Let me take a look. Because there's not a whole lot of space. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of space, so we just need to bring this up. Again, this is stuff that you're going to realize when you start actually doing more of this detailed work. Like, those fingers were just too far. And then, and your eyes, you've seen the human form a lot, right? You've looked at it. You looked at yourself in the mirror. You've looked at people. When you start moving these lines around, you're going to see, like, oh, yeah, that looks so much better. Our knowledge and our way that we recognize proper shapes and stuff, you know, allows us to actually do artwork easier than what we think we can. Because, like I said, if I left my hands out there, right, do you think, this is a serious question, do you think that looks right? I don't think so. I don't think that looks right. And so, just feeling out your artwork. And that just looks so much better. So much better. Yeah, see, Ebony, you're right there. See, look at that. You're an artist. You're an artist. Look at that, Ebony. Wonderful. Great job. Like, and so when you start refining your shapes, refining everything about your body and your proportions and stuff, you'll start figuring this stuff out. You'll be like, you know what? That doesn't look right. That doesn't look right at all. And then I can come back through here and finish that up. Probably made it too much of a lump. It's pretty straight. Like, there's not a whole lot of plane of existence. It's actually a pretty straight line. And again, we're semi-realistic. We're just doing a cartoony, semi-realistic figure pose. So here we are. But ultimately, though, look at that. Not bad. And this is done in 3 layers, right? So just to cap off how far we've come in a couple of hours, let's get some zoom outage. Little zoomage, a little zoom outage. There we go. Let's go about right about there. And we're gonna go back in time. So let's go to our first layer. So this is where it all started. And then we'll get rid of that layer. Go to 100%. And that's where it went. And that's where it is now. Yeah, it's this is, like I said, this is just kind of my own artistry. This is how I do sketching and figuring out stuff, and it's just like,
you just keep refining. I'm a refiner. Like, I feel like I am a blacksmith. I'm taking a raw piece of iron and I am heating it up and I'm cooking, man. I'm cooking. And I'm just smacking it with the hammer and refining the shape of the sword. So I'm making a lump of iron into a sword. And that's how I view my artwork. So, like, I'm like a blacksmith and I'm forging my character and making it better and better and better as we go. And Ebony says, looking really good so far. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Ebony. I appreciate that. Um, and of course, we're going to get to the animalistic features because we're going to now work on the face and working on the shape of the face and how we want that oriented, the tail, stuff like that. And then after we get that, we're going to start on the facial features. We're basically going to, luckily, we've made our own references. Isn't that cool when you're an artist and you make your own references? So I know exactly how my ears and my fur are going to look when I'm recreating my head here. And then, obviously, that's all I have, though. So everything else is going to be brand new. So the hands and the feet and the tail, all of this is going to be brand new, has never been done before. And so it's a really cool journey to be part of. This is one of the satisfying things about being an artist because I get to create something that doesn't exist, has never existed before. Even though you say, well, there's plenty of foxes out there. Well, there's no kitsukais. This is the first time anyone's ever seen kitsukai. And seen him and his full body construction and everything like that. All of the references. Basically we're character creating with a lot of steps. That being said, like I said, I've been on stream I think for a little bit over 2 hours now. I'm gonna take a break, get something to eat. I'm gonna spend some time with the wife and my pets. She's got to go to work here in a little while, and again though we'll be doing this throughout the whole rest of the day. So hopefully we'll have full line art, detail, and coloring by the end of the day with our first iteration of Kitsukai full body. And we're not doing clothes though right now. We're just doing full body, getting all that done. So this is I guess you could say a nude furry, or actually, Ebony, this is a good question for you. This is a good question for Ebony. When a fursuiter doesn't wear, so like if I'm making the artwork, right, and I just want anatomy, that's the only thing I care about, but my persona wears normal people clothes, is it considered still nude? Or or it doesn't matter? Because I view like a persona like yours, Ebony, you're not wearing clothes, but I don't think you're considered nude. You're a furry. So you let me know, Ebony, what that would be. If a persona wears typical human clothes, if I draw no clothes on that persona, is that considered nude? I'm learning. I'm learning all the things. I'm looking at, actually, I went to chat manager here and looked at viewers, so I think Ebony has actually left the room. That's fine. Gotta do what you do. Oh, I think Ebony's back. I'm not sure. No, nothing is usually called naked, nude, etc. Okay, so yeah, so essentially it's just is what it is. Um, I think clothes are in the same spectrum as character creation in general, because adding clothing to something also further furthers the identification, the identity of that character. Because just drawing the non-clothed version of Kitsukai, doesn't say much about his character. It just shows off the proportions and how the body looks and things like that. Versus adding clothing and, of course, dynamic poses, those are what's going to tell you his personality. You're like, oh, okay, so this is how he portrays himself. This is what his job in life is, or whatever the case may be. So, that's just kind of what I'm getting at. Like, this is like the introduction, and then we're going to do a whole new sheet with actual clothing and so on and so forth. But Ebony, um, it's treated as you're now an animal creature. Do they wear clothes? Yeah. So yeah, they either do or they don't, and it doesn't matter either way. Um, it's just, I guess, like kind of like what I was saying is like it's kind of based on their personality. Like, do they want to wear a shirt? Do they want to wear pants in a shirt? Um, I guess it's complete creativity, and whether doesn't matter which way you go. You're fine either way. Fine either way. Um, but yeah, Ebony, truly appreciate you coming in. Hopefully you come back and see me here in a little bit because, like I said, I am just going to take a quick break, get something to eat. Um, Either case, though, anybody that did come in, watch the stream, I appreciate you. If I do decide to upload this to YouTube, I probably will with this one because it was a really good tutorial. I felt really good about this tutorial and teaching. And so I'm probably going to upload this video to YouTube. So anybody who watches this on YouTube, please don't be afraid to like, comment, subscribe. Helps out. And hope you learned something today. And like I said, as far as Twitch is concerned and Ebony and anybody else, I will be back on later. And we're going to finish this today. We're going to hope to finish this today. That being said, though, you all take care. This is your host, Samurai Kit Kat. And I will see you later. Peace.